If you will flip with me to rehearsal 27, we're going to talk about the last week or 2 weeks in your 9 weeks, and that would be final rehearsals. There are 4 different final rehearsals that we are going to talk about. There's the stumble through, and that's where you've done all of your show rehearsals, you've taught all of the bits and pieces separate from each other, and now what you're going to do is just try to piece them all together and start sewing them together. So you start at the beginning, and as the director, you're working through it, you're pausing, you're fixing things, you continue to go through it, you can stop here, fix things, etc. The second rehearsal is the run through, and that is where you go start to finish, no comments along the way, and then at the very end, you sit and do notes and talk through things. But this helps the continuity of learning not to break and of empowering your troop members and TAs to keep going when things don't go smoothly and don't go well. So the run through is what we are going to do right now. That means no stopping throughout. You mess up a dance move, you mess up a line, you just keep going. So we're gonna stand up and we're gonna go up back there. Everybody's gonna put on their character, take their script, and we are going to do a run through of Red Riding Hood.
Once upon a time, a little girl named Red lived with her mother in the woods. This is where our story begins. One day, Red was doing her daily chores.
Did you call me, Mother?
Yes, Red, come here. Your grandmother is very sick, and I need you to give her this basket with bread and honey.
Okay, Mother.
Now, don't forget your hood. It's cold outside, okay?
Okay, Grandmother.
Her mother reminded Red not to talk to strangers in the woods.
Okay, Mother.
Little Red Riding Hood began her journey in the wood forest with a basket full of treats for her grandmother who lived in a nearby village. Along the way, she passed by many beautiful flowers.
Oh, what beautiful flowers. We'll bring some to my grandmother.
As she picked up the flowers, she put down her basket, but suddenly...
Red Riding Hood, how lovely is your basket. Red Riding Hood, I really hate to ask it, but may I have a piece of bread for my stomach, little Red? Red Riding Hood, how lovely is your basket. Where are you going?
I'm going to my grandma's house.
The wolf smelled the delicious bread and honey.
Sorry, but this bread is for my grandmother.
When he asked how far away Red's grandmother lived, she told him it was the house just across the woods in the bright blue door.
See that road?
Yes, I do.
That's the fastest way to your grandmother's house.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf.
Goodbye, Red. Oh!
Little Red ignored her mother's instructions and continued to pick flowers. Meanwhile, Mr. Wolf traveled across the woods and knocked on the first blue door he found.
Who is it?
It's me, Little Red Riding Hood. I brought some bread from my mother.
Oh, come in, my sweet granddaughter.
As soon as Red's grandma opened the door, the wolf grabbed her and tied her in a closet. He put on her nightgown and jumped into her chair and waited for Red. A few minutes later, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at her grandma's house. She knocked on the bright blue door.
Who is it?
It's me, Red Riding Hood.
Oh, come in, my sweet granddaughter.
Little Red Riding Hood entered the house and went straight to her grandmother's room. She sat in the chair and looked at her grandmother.
Grandma, Grandma, do you want some bread? Mother made it so you will be fed. Take some basket, eat it while it's hot. Drizzle in the honey, in the spot. Granny, Granny, do you want some bread? Mother made it so you will be fed. Oh, Grandmother, what arms you have.
To hug you better, my sweets.
Oh, Grandmother, what big ears you have. Eyes you have.
To see you better, my darling.
But Grandmother, why are your teeth so big?
To eat you with, of course.
A nearby lumberjack heard the commotion and ran to grandmother's house. Just as he was about to hit the big bad wolf with his axe, Red screamed.
Why are you chasing each other?
Because I want to eat you.
Red could not understand why. She thought Mr. Wolf seemed so nice. She asked if he would like to try eating something other than people.
Try this.
Oh, that's delicious.
Now can we be friends?
I don't see why not.
Oh, I was so worried something had happened to you. I'm so glad you're okay.
I'm okay, Grandmother. We're just friends now. We're friends now.
What do we do now?
That was a workout.
After a run through, then what we would do is what you're naturally just doing. Sitting together and going through notes. Making sure that criticism is encouraging and effective is obviously really important because we do want to challenge, push, and critique so that we can help our students grow, of course, but always doing it in a way that is mindful and encouraging is super important. Do you guys, as teachers, have anything technique-wise that you already use in your classroom or that you do?
The hamburger method, where you have to give a positive compliment, then you can critique, but it must be in a way that doesn't just say something they've done wrong, but something that they can improve, and then give them a suggestion on how to do that, and then follow it up with another compliment.
We call it in my classroom constructive criticism, and that's always one of our vocabulary words every year that we seem to have to go over what it means after every performance or concert. But I basically just describe constructive criticism as something that can be fixed. So we don't want to point out anything that can't be fixed or worked on, so it doesn't become just negative talking points. So it could be, I really loved how you did your dancing. If you could make it bigger or something along that kind of line, and I just give an example. I always give an example.
I use pretty much like the hamburger method. We call it the feedback sandwich. But
Feedback sandwich.
Phrase it like what's something we did well, then what's something we can do better. Instead of what's something we didn't do well. It's always what's something we could do better, because then automatically thinks, oh, we could do this instead, and it's not like, oh, we could do better.
Yeah.
You kept turning your back to the audience. Instead of saying something in a negative manner, I'd always encourage my kids to put it in, like everyone was basically saying, put it in a way that is a way that can be improved. Something like, remember to keep keep facing the audience so they can hear what you have to say. Instead of just saying, you're always doing this, or you didn't do this. So that's what we do. I also had to take, high school's a little different, but we like to take, after one rehearsal, I do snaps and I hand out prizes. Like, I love this person's dedication, and I only do positive things. It's like a whole talk back of nothing but positive things that are going on.
In that last week 8, 9, when you're doing that, it's a lot of just run-throughs, notes, run-throughs. With those run-throughs, also knowing when you do a final performance, if you do a final performance, there's a lot of ways it's not even gonna go like your best run-through, right? Which we know, but going with that and helping your TAs to get comfortable as well with when things don't go as planned. We're gonna talk next about tech rehearsals. So before you would do a tech rehearsal, and this is in the final stages, right? So this is when you are going to do a full-scale production or even a showcase performance. But before you would do a tech rehearsal, which means adding the lights and microphones, you would want to personally go through this checklist, which is also in your book, to ensure that you have everything in place before you would move forward. And it's simply that making sure the show is, done, that you have the props and that the cast has been able to rehearse with props. Another thing that we can always talk about is being able to use props as, when you think of a safety blanket, sometimes, even with Lauren, how she talks yesterday when she was using her cane, she always tries to make it into some kind of prop whenever she's a character, or whether it's a weighted blanket that somebody that has autism, having that weight with the grandmother's blanket. It's things as simple as making sure that the fabrics and the different props that you're having people use, knowing that your students might be sensitive to, some people are not at all going to want to have makeup put on their face. And the dislike for that tactile feeling, whether it's a costume material or whether it's face, really needs to be dealt with in a very therapeutic setting in a really in-depth way. So that's something that we suggest not trying to push your students in. If they really don't like it or it really makes them feel bothered, don't push them in that way, and just figure out another solution to work around that, because that takes a lot more specific in-depth therapy to work with. Making sure your transitions, if you're doing a compilation of the folklore and fairy tales rather than just Red Riding Hood. So Red Riding Hood was one show, but then you also did The Three Little Fish, making sure that your transitions between shows, or if you're taking wood on stage and off stage, that those are all planned. That your lighting cues are decided upon before. So you don't want to be setting lighting cues with whoever's running the lights while you have your students there rehearsing, because you're going to get really antsy students. So wanting to make sure you've done that all beforehand and you've gone through the script with the lighting director or whoever's running your lights, so they know when that comes on and off. And then you have sent a schedule to your students. This is more so if it's outside of school, that has both the tech and dress rehearsal dates. And then when that pre-tech check is completed, you can move on to do your tech rehearsal, putting everybody on stage with their props and the lighting and sound. And then you have, of course, your dress rehearsal. That's where you add costumes. So you have lights, sound, costumes, props, and you're practicing it through with that. That can also always be used as a preview night, if you want to have some people in the room to get used to having an audience. And then you are ready for your final production. question.
Well, we've run a marathon in the last 2 days. That was just such a great example of just what's to come, you know. And you guys are so creative, and just even seeing some of your notes and stuff, just confident in where you teach and what you're doing. And you're doing such a phenomenal job. And for us, that's so encouraging, because I hope that you've really enjoyed just working through all this material. It's a lot, you know, but it's a lot that is so, every piece of it is just applicable. So just spend time with your curriculum, and we are here for you. So any questions that you have, 100% to just contact us via text, via email, via the phone. We are here, so you just let us know whatever we can do for you. So let's take just a moment to do kind of a brainstorm break. If you'll get your journals out for one last time. What resources, what deeper explanations that we can give to you for you to feel prepared in implementing this into your classroom.
There is that outlined way that we break down touching base, which can be 5 minutes, it can be an hour call, but being a part of the network just allows you to have at any time where you're like, I need to make, you know, an appointment to be able to, whether it's a video call or just over the phone, to be able to talk through and problem solve and ask for support. You know, you can do it outside of this as well. At the end of the year, we'll come back for the little showcase performance, and we get to kind of do another little thing to support you as you guys do your final showcase.
So Abby, Aaliyah, and Brittany, go wait over on those steps up there, because you're going to enter.
Some people will say, you know, all kids with Down syndrome are just so sweet. Well, very often. But if you say that, then it's like saying all people of another category have this certain characterization. So I think that maybe just leaving that door open and letting people figure out what the individuals are like is best.
I've been practicing the lines. I'm not nervous.
No, I'm not nervous. We never had to deal with stage fright.
I'm not nervous at all.
The public, they kind of turn a blind eye to us. We are kind of looked down upon as being kind of weird, less human.
Society seems like it always has that mentality that someone needs to be on top. And in order to do that, somebody has to move down the line.
People these days are being treated wrong.
Our students are pushed aside, ignored, attacked. We went into a small store, and the students were walking around and they were looking at things. And the owner said, can you have them maybe step outside? And I was just aghast, because my students were having great behavior. It's a preconception that, you know, the students might be troubled, there might be problems. So she wanted to avoid that for her other customers. There may be some truth to having a disability, but then there's also encouragement that we all have disabilities and we can move on.
I've been in banking for years, and people, they walk in and you think they don't have a cent to their name, and you open their account and they're well off. When our children walk into a door, don't just assume that they have Down syndrome and they can't do anything.
I think there is a desire in individuals to help. They just don't know how.
They have feelings too. So, you know, the being shunned and ignored is...
They just stare and stare and stare, and to the point it's just so rude. So I find myself wanting to stare back at them. I mean, they may not love them just at first sight, but get to know them. I don't know, it's just like they're not worth the trouble, and that hurts.
Okay, you're looking at me weird. I have special needs. Maybe you have special needs. It doesn't matter what I look like. And I don't care if you're like you're weird or why is the kid in here. I'm just like you.
These are people. That means they have common human desires, like to belong. Just noticing them does more for them than we could imagine.
I want strangers to treat me as I am. Well, I just don't want them to think I'm not smart, but I am smart.
We're looked at like, oh, how would they help us? When in truth, we can show the public how we can help society if only they give us a chance.
We've really enjoyed being with you guys, and we're really grateful, again, for the work ahead to get this into your classrooms, and we're really excited to continue to support you. Thank you, thank you. We know you guys do the heavy lifting, and we're really appreciative.